Alright! We've reached our first boss, Baron Cuties. He has two mechanics, the first being Cuties Depth Charge. This ability places a debuff on a random player. Once the debuff runs out, that player will explode, causing a knockback to all players above water. In order to prevent this, the player with the debuff must jump off the platform into the water. Once you're in the water, you can collect orbs that grant swimming and movement speed. Utilize those to get yourself back onto the platform and in the fight. Watch out for the whirlpools as they will drag you under. The second mechanic is called Bubble Beam. Cuties will begin to slowly spin in a circle, shooting out an array of bubbles, just like your boy Blastoise. Stay ahead of those bubbles and secure your victory. Yo! Good job, Cuties! Our next boss will be Gamera. This large turtle swims around an island inhabited by smaller and weaker turtles. Make sure that your raid clears all of the turtles on the island before pulling the boss, otherwise they will all turn aggressive and so will your healers. Once the boss is pulled, he will whip out 3 different mechanics and abilities. The first being a form of Sunder armor on your tanks. It's recommended to have your tanks taunt off of each other on 2 stacks of Sunder to reduce heavy damage. As your tanks are busy keeping the mages and Wreck Paladin at bay, purplish orbs will appear on the map. These orbs offer both the gift and curse of mana gain, but heavy damage. If you're in dire need of mana, you can step on one, but be cautious of your current HP when you do. Finally, Gamera will cast a spell called Aqua Shell. It is a damage absorption that requires a certain amount of hits to break. Once it breaks, it will cause a knockback to all the raid. Healers will have to be prepared and anticipate this maneuver. Be cautious of your placement when the shield goes down, as you're likely to unintentionally hit a few orbs upon landing. Repeat the process and make Master Splinter shed a tear. Y'all are some real players. After making turtle soup, you've reached a boss that is more or less just another trash mob, Lady Service. She's a busted-looking somebody with a big old bodyguard by her side. Tank both Lady Service and Old Buddy separately and focus only on Service. She comes equipped with 2 abilities in her purse, which neither are too severe. The first is a patch of icy ground that she will lay underneath her. Simply move her out of the patch, otherwise players inside will be in an ice block for a period of time. The other ability is a random player targeted chain lightning debuff. Once the debuff timer is up, the charge will explode and chain onto nearby players. The best way to deal with this fight is to ignore most of the mechanics and treat it like any other trash pack. Hey, you can even let the runners pull the boss for you. That last quote-unquote boss fight was a dream, wasn't it? Time to encounter a nightmare. You've now reached Jellyhast. This massive crusty murloc has a few tricks up his skin sleeves for your raid. Firstly, he will place a debuff on your tanks, so it's recommended to taunt off of each other at 2 stacks. Jellyhast will also cast Curse of Agony on a random player. However, this curse is a special one. If dispelled, the player that was cursed will now be feared and will net massive DPS loss, which doesn't look good on the logs. Your options are to either combat the fear with Tremor Totem or the Paladin Inspiration Rune, heal through the damage, or let your player sulk in self-pity. Once Jellyhast is nearly dead, he trolls you and puts up a shield, taking nearly 0 damage. At this point, he starts to heal and smaller shadow murlocs come creeping from the sides of the room. They walk in a crisscross pattern and you are now in the middle of a game of Frogger. If you hit a murloc, you will receive a good bit of damage. During this dance, Jellyhast will spawn void zones on random players. Guess what? You can't stand in those either. Avoid everything. Once that phase is over, only void zones will be casted until he shields himself again for the second time. However, instead of just murlocs and void zones, he adds tentacles that cast Mind Flay. What a loser! You have 2 options here, either focus the tentacles or pump the boss like you've never pumped before. It's your nightmare. You choose how it ends. I'll bet you had fun on that last one, didn't you, cutie? This next encounter is a tiered, gauntlet-style fight that involves a few more busted sirens and old buddies. This time, we're going to focus on killing the elites first and the sirens second. Waves of murloc ads will be sent as you fight. Be sure to swap to them and get them down before they poke your healers to death. As you kill the siren, the water block path will open up, only to be met by another siren. Repeat the process until the second pack is killed, and don't forget, swap to the ads. After the second wall of water dissipates, you have 1 more siren to breeze through. Be sure to clean up the murlocs. Once the third and final water wall clears, our next boss will appear, Lorgus Jet. Lorgus is your typical pretty boy hair-styled human shaman that we all have never seen. They utilize 3 different totems in which 2 of them should be prioritized. The most important totem to kill is the lightning shield totem. When this is down, All damage the player deals to the boss will cause massive damage to themselves. This can be a tank killer. Swap DPS to this totem immediately when it is placed. The second priority totem is Wind Fury. This one is pretty obvious, but we don't want our tanks getting extra chunk swings done to their cutie booties. The third totem the boss drops is a lava ball totem. This lava ball will target random players and start rolling towards them. It's fairly easy to dodge unless positioning is in a tight spot or casted on top of you. If you're hit with one, it will deal a decent amount of damage and knock you back. They also leave a fiery trail, so avoiding those would be ideal. It's recommended to kite the boss up one side of the path and down the other for this reason, but DPS can also take the time out to kill the lava totem with minimal effort. Be that person who takes the time to do mechanics, my friends. Y'all kawaii cuties are seriously putting in work. But this is where the true test comes in. Meet Twilight Lord Kelris. This orc wizard has a few interesting, fun, and challenging mechanics. Let's start off with his main spellcast, Mind Blast. It does fairly significant damage, but isn't a priority for kicks and interrupts. The spell that needs to be interrupted is Shadowy Chains. This is a spell that deals a powerful damage over time effect on a player and should be dispelled immediately if the cast goes through. Having at least one person dedicated to the interrupt is ideal, but a backup isn't a bad idea either. Kelris will pick the two closest players to him and send them into a different realm. Once placed in this realm, you must kill elves in order for a portal to be opened. Once the portal is open, you can return to the living world and continue smacking the boss. Kelris will not send the same two players back into the Shadow Realm, so make sure you plan a rotation on who will be smelling Kelris' hair. It's usually best to send one tank and one DPS down each time in order to consistently have a tank above soaking those mind blasts. During this time, a purple gas will begin to spawn under ranged players and it will follow them, forcing them to move as a group around the outside of the room. We don't want that cloud getting near the melee or the boss, so keep it to the wall. At 35% HP, Kelris will enter phase 2. He will enlarge himself and become immune to all silences, interrupts, and kicks. He will start free casting Mind Blast and Chains on the raid as well as weaving in some melee hits on your tank for good measure. At this point, it is a DPS check and race. All previous clouds will disappear and a new one will form, giving you roughly 90 seconds to defeat him, otherwise you will fall victim. Dust to dust! My, cuties with nice booties. You've made it all the way to Black Fathom Deep's last boss. Akomai! In this fight, there are a few ways of handling it. Akumi will apply a stacking debuff that deals increasing damage over time on your tanks. The basic way of doing this is to have one tank gain up to 2 to 4 stacks. Once they've reached that many, the second tank will taunt, allowing them to run to a large elemental to the left of the room. The tank will get cleansed of the stacks, but adds will spawn equal to the number of stacks cleansed. For example, if the tank runs to the elemental with 3 stacks of debuff, 3 adds will spawn. Once these adds spawn, they need to be smacked down. Bringing them to the boss for maximum cleavage is ideal. During this time, Akumi will occasionally do a frontal cone poison breath. It is very easy to dodge and should be done so accordingly. At 50%, Akumi will turn into a shadow form version of himself, spawning a large shadow elemental. The same principles apply with the debuff stacking order. However, the adds that spawn from the shadow realm are significantly beefier. You may choose to DPS them down or try your hardest to nuke the boss with all you have. A third alternative method is to have a paladin in your raid to tank the boss in phase 1 until 5 stacks of debuff, then cast divine protection on themselves, removing all stacks and producing 0 adds. Congratulations, Cuties! Good luck on your epic weapons!